Well, got up early and drove up the valley in the dark, and it's just absolutely pissing rain. But you never know. You never know when that moment's going to arrive, when those whatever it is you're after is going to be right where you want them to be, so you can get that crisp, wicked photograph or video. But unfortunately, there was the two great big bulls were far on the other side of the valley in private property, laying down next to the timber, and then a little farther up, there's a couple smaller bulls on another chunk of private property out of the back, and definitely not really worthy of the effort it might take to try to bash your way through the forest into this log and slash and get up on them. So I didn't waste any time, turned around, drove home. So here I am. October is over in a day. I guess a handful of you saw that I went on Twitter yesterday. And to be honest, I don't even know why I did it. I mean, what's that place all about? I don't understand it. From what I've understood, hearing people in the past, it's been a very toxic place where people just get on there and start insulting the shit at each other. And then sure enough, what I do, my very first post is I went after the dirty bastards, right? And I did it again, but I don't think I'm going to put much time into Twitter, because I don't see any benefit in time's valuable, and right now I don't see any benefit in spending time there. So we'll see. And I don't really understand it either. I don't understand the app or how it completely works or what you're supposed to be doing. I don't really get it yet. But then right away this morning it suggested pages for me to follow, suggested 5 things to follow or something. Like, okay, let's have a look. Who comes up with the filthy evil criminals? Biden, Barack, criminal Obama, and our own Canadian criminal come up. I'm like, yeah, I want to follow them, all right. Follow them with a posse, maybe. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I won't be too active on there. I don't see me being active on there in the future. What else? Oh, forgot one more thing. Yeah, somebody sent me something. Again. Oh, I don't promote it. I don't ask for people to send me gifts. And like I said before, it kind of makes me feel awkward. I don't know why. We didn't really grow up celebrating gifts all too much, I'll tell you what. But anyway, one thing when people email me, say, hey, send me your address. What's your shipping address? I'm like, okay, here you go. Just make sure it doesn't blow up. Because I don't know. I don't know what people are going to send me. Maybe one day, maybe somebody's going to send me an SD card or something with something significant on it to share with the people. And that's in the back of my mind. That's what I'm kind of hoping for when I get those emails. But and believe me, I appreciate the kindness. There's so many kind people here. It's really, really a good thing, right? Now, what do we got? What is this from? Customs. All right, let's just say this person's name is Rose, from what I can see in Pennsylvania. So this is interesting. Uh-oh, looks like I gotta do some reading. Holy cow, what is all this? Any videotapes of Sasquatch in here? Lots of letters. More letters, I think. More package. All right. This is sealed. Well, actually. All right. Look at the wrap on this. Holy crap! You can tie up a horse with some of that tape, I'll tell you what. Alright, this is a bunch of products. Makeup and stuff, I believe. This has got to be for Sarah, I'm guessing. Oops. a whole pile of kindness wrapped up here, I'll tell you what. I want to get to hearing people. There's a whole bunch of reading here. I might have to do this without the camera, okay, you guys? And I'll see if there's something there that needs to be read to you and shared, and I will. Rose, I appreciate you. You're a very kind lady. I think these are, like that. Oh my God, I got some 3 pairs of Sasquatch socks. Oh my God. It's like a little mini Christmas, isn't it? Oh boy. How's that for a pair of socks? All right, Rose, I'm gonna get to reading all this. I'll read all this after, all right? And then if it's something you wanted me to share here, then I'll fire this camera up again and I will get it shared. Thank you so much, Rose. What a kind thing to do. Thank you, Rose. I'll read that shortly. Now, nobody's here, it's just me. I'm solo this weekend. Otherwise, Sarah would have loved to open that herself. Oops. Now, listen to this. Let's get some voices heard. The voices of the people, the most important voices ever. West Virginia encounter. Hello, Steve. I sent this story a while back, not sure if you ever got to it. If you did, I apologize for resending it. Anyway, here it is. I guess I was about 12 years old, 53 now, so I've been a member of the club for quite a while now. Myself and a cousin who was around 3 years younger walked up a hill behind the house with pellet guns. We were boys, doing what boys do, looking for squirrels and rabbits. His father had been cutting trees and had thrown all the cut branches and treetops in a pretty deep ravine on the back of the 80-acre plot of land. We decided to slide down the steep bank into the ravine and kick around on the pile of treetops to see if we could scare up a squirrel or rabbit. Well, we were standing about 3 to 4 feet apart when something whizzed past our heads like a baseball. I looked at him and said, "What the heck was that?" And then it happened again. We looked at the steep bank, which was only a few feet behind us, and there were 2 walnuts, still in the green husks, rolling down the bank. And then all hell broke loose. The loudest roar or scream came from the opposite bank. It screamed at least 2 more times and was getting closer each time. Branches being broken and getting closer every second. Needless to say, we were scared to death. We turned and scaled the bank we had previously slid down in record time. We were literally running like our lives depended on it. My uncle had cut a road up the hill crossways, so it left a sheer drop off about 12 feet in one part of the hill. I was running so fast and was so scared, I ran right off the drop off and slammed into the rough gravel that was on the makeshift road. I bounced up like nothing, kept running back up the hill towards the houses. My dad was a deputy sheriff at this time, always had a gun on his side at all times. He was at the bottom of the hill with my uncle, and they were burning a small brush pile. They saw us running and screaming coming down the hill and came running, thinking we must have had an accident or something. We told them what happened, and they took the truck up the hill and they went to the place where it happened. They found the walnuts and our pellet guns laying on the ground where it all happened. Every time I told this story, up till a few years ago, I was ridiculed or even laughed at. But since then, my father had an encounter around Mina, Arkansas, where he and a friend were camping and saw 3 Sabe watching them from a short distance from the campsite. So now, several more sightings and crazy encounters have happened around this state. I absolutely appreciate you, and I envy you and your lifestyle. I still hunt and fish, and recently spent 5 months in Northwest Oregon, where myself and my girlfriend went camping all around Mount Hood and the surrounding area. I know that's a hotbed for sightings. More to come, my friend. Thanks for all you do. Your friend from West by God, Virginia, Dave Knotts. Dave, appreciate it, man. I've been in West Virginia. Get out of here. And, okay. If your dad's still with us, maybe, possibly, he may want to share what he knows. Maybe. And maybe pass him this video possibly so he can see what we're about, what this is about, who it's about, what we do, don't do. It's just sharing the people's voices and the knowledge honestly to help people. That's all we're doing here. And it's getting pretty popular. He ran around Mount Hood. Yeah, that's a mega hotbed. If you got more you want to share, man, send it. All right, send it our way. Especially if it's going to help somebody. All right? Especially if it's going to help somebody. But send it away. And next time, don't leave anything out. Okay? Because you don't know when I'm going to get my eyes on your email. It can take a while. A long while. All right, got a reply from one of our favorite law enforcement officers, the Cooge. Cujo wrote back right away with the Medicine Man story. All right, man. Thanks, buddy. Steve Cujo here. About the Native American who disappeared. I was a new cop working patrol, maybe 2 or 3 years or so, 1995 or 1996. I was cruising through an apartment complex near the coast late night/early morning when I saw this man standing in the middle of a large parking lot about half full of cars. The first thing I thought, there was a costume party somewhere that just ended. But the closer I got, the more it just didn't look right. He looked authentic, not in costume. He was very old, but the black and white paint on his face hid his age well. Feathers in his hair, but not like a John Wayne movie. It was like a straight fan facing forward. Black and white feathers. White painted bands around his upper arms and legs about 4 inches wide. No shirt. Brown cloth wrapped around his waist, and he was holding a rod about 4 feet long and a lot of little things attached to the top like feathers, string, and rocks. I pulled up to him, facing him in my police unit, got out, and when I approached him, I could hear him talking in a language I did not recognize, but it sounded like a Native American language, similar to what I've heard in movies and documentaries. He didn't even look at me. No sound except waves crashing in the distance. I asked him if he was okay, and he just kept speaking the same way, like he was praying. Didn't even look at me. I tried a couple times to get his attention, but no dice. I was about 20 feet from him, feeling frustrated. I turned around to look and see if anyone else is around who maybe knew him so I could get him home. And when I did, he stopped talking. I turned back to face him, and he was just gone. Holy shit. At first I thought he had ducked behind some cars, but I searched and he wasn't there either. I looked between cars, under cars, in cars, and after about 5 minutes I just walked back to my unit and left. A few days later I was talking to some other officers in the briefing room about it. They were giving me a hard time about how the 5150 had given me the slip. An old retired cop was working as a booking officer for us back then. He put in his 30 years on the street and retired long before I had started. He was no longer sworn, but worked a civilian position processing our prisoners when we brought them in. He overheard our conversation and smiled at me. Later that night, I brought someone in the jail. When I was alone with the booking officer, he said, "You saw him? The Medicine Man?" I told him what happened. He told me the apartment complex where I saw him used to be open ground with sand dunes close to the beach. Back in his time in the 50s and 60s, he said a couple officers saw him in the dunes a few years apart, and they simply referred to him as the Medicine Man. He told me that back then they had figured out that the Native American was Chumash, based on his appearance. He was in the same spot both times, never spoke to the officers, and simply disappeared when the cops tried to contact him. Weird, right? That's all I have in that story. I never did an official contact report. My stop would show up as a subject stop on our computer between 3 or 4 in the morning at that parking lot and show me clearing the area about 10 minutes after the stop. And I have no idea if anyone after me ever saw him again. I've been retired 7 years now, Steve. If you ever have any questions regarding police work, I think you asked about training and dealing with the public, I'd be happy to answer. Cujo. Right on, man. Appreciate it. Who knows? I mean, a lot of people are going to claim to know exactly who or what that was you saw. First thing that comes to my mind is somewhat what we typically would call a ghost, right? I know people who I trust in my life who have seen ghosts. I don't know if that's even the right name for them, right? Haven't a clue. The amount of crazy shit going on with our existence is mind-boggling. So when we have reports of people experiencing this, there's got to be some other truth about it that we just we don't know about yet, or most of us don't know about it yet, other than just simply saying, "That was a ghost. That was a trapped spirit." You know what I mean? There's something is going on, something that we have not been clearly explained to about. But anyway, yeah, for sure, I'll get back on the police training and the public thing shortly. Not right now. I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I got to get a lot more of the voices heard and cut my babble down for right now. But I'm curious, Cooch, because I've had some officers explain to me the training, the military, and what they have drilled into the military when they're getting trained, and how short of a time it is compared to what your typical police officers get hammered into them for a much more significant amount of time before they're allowed to go and hit the pavement, right? And there's a bunch more to that I'd like to ask about, but later on in more detail, okay? You probably are picking up on what I'm getting at. Now, appreciate you, man. I absolutely appreciate your time you have for the people here. And I know I'm speaking for everyone here when I say that. More voices. More voices. I'm about 2 days away from leaving you guys to go up north. All right. You finally did it this time. You provoked me enough to write in. Bear with me. There are 2 Sabbath stories at the end of the email. This will be a long one. I've been listening since before the plague hit, and the fact you weren't deceived by the madness just made me listen more regularly. Here's my 2 cents. I've never met Jesus Christ face to face, but I can say that at one time in my life, during prayer, it is hard to put into words, I was more sure of Jesus Christ's existence than I was of my own existence. He is far more real than I am. I'm in a slightly different club in a return, more than a believer and maybe just a little lower than a knower. Another experience I had that was much less intense but easier to explain was this mind speak, as people call it. At a low point in my life, out of some kind of weird spiritual bravado or poetic melancholy, I decided to pray intensely for Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Christ with a kiss to be forgiven and saved. Deep in prayer, after a few hours and many tears because of the tragedy of human existence, I heard a voice, but it was not a voice, just direct communication from someone other than myself, which, if put into words, would be, quote, "Do you really think you love Judas more than I do?" End quote. With that communication, I felt terribly ashamed that I'd ever doubted Christ's love for Judas and all of us, even the filthy bastards of us. But at the same time, extremely comforted. I'm an Orthodox priest now for about 14 years. I served for many years in a big city in Eastern Europe and heard thousands upon thousands of hours of confessions, things you can't imagine. I can speak about them here in generalities, but it doesn't break the mystery of confession because no one could know who I'm writing about. I confessed prostitutes, alcoholics, schizophrenics, people with all kinds of mental illness, people who had been abused by their parents, usually fathers. Heard people tell me about how they saw their siblings being beaten to death right in front of them when they were too young to be able to help. I confessed orphans and widows, homeless. The weight of human suffering is very extreme and breaks your heart. No frickin' doubt. I, of course, also confess professional types too. Bankers, lawyers, doctors, professors, judges, students who also many times have terrible struggles. But there is the positive side too. People can change through the grace of God. The Holy Spirit is always willing to help. I heard many miracles. I'll give just one example for the sake of time. An atheist walked into a church on Holy Friday to see what these Christians are all about, and behold, she saw a bright and beautiful light emanate from the middle of the cross and moved throughout the church. No one else could see that light, but she did for quite some time, and it opened her up, and she became orthodox and changed her life. This person is normal. The miracle she witnessed isn't some form of delusion or mental disorder. She didn't walk around having these experiences. It radically changed her life for the better. The reason I mentioned the confessions is because after so many thousands of hours of listening to people's deepest concerns and problems, you develop an intuition for who is genuine, sincere, or manipulative. You get an idea of who is looking for the truth and who is closed to it. Yourself and the vast majority of people who write in to How to Hunt are genuine people and sincere in their efforts. God bless you. It's refreshing. It's true that at least 20 million Orthodox were slaughtered by the Soviet regime, a government killing its own people in the most ingeniously diabolical ways. Now they came up with certain types of injections. But some of those being persecuted became holy people and worked wonders, and more importantly, helped people to make peace with God and to live in the worst possible conditions as if they were in paradise. They rose up and helped to save people. We should try to follow their examples. I will be concrete. There is a book, Father Arseny, a priest, prisoner, and spiritual father. In that real-life account, Father Arseny saved a young man from being stabbed to death by a thief while they were all living in the Siberian gulag. Father Arseny rose up and dared to fight the thief, knocked the knife from his hand, and humiliated him in front of the barracks, saving the young man's life. Well, the thief narked to the guards, claiming the Father Arseny attacked him. No good deed goes unpunished, right? So, Father Arseny and the young man were sent to the ice house, a thin metal shack with no heat, for 2 days and 2 nights. It was the middle of winter, Siberia, 40 below 0 Fahrenheit. I should have killed him. When the guards came to collect the human ice cubes 2 days later, they were shocked to the core. For F.R. Arseny and the young man were both fine and warm. They had prayed, angels had come and worshipped Christ with them and preserved them. They were welcomed back to the barracks as if they had risen from the dead. This miracle was witnessed by hundreds of men and is an established fact. There are literally thousands of these holy people and honest people who witnessed these kinds of events. It's phenomenal. I had the blessing to meet some of these kinds of true heroes who went to prison for decades because they were unwilling to renounce their faith in Christ and bend their knee to lies and the communist regime. The peace that emanates from these people is unbelievable. Just being in their presence removes all anxieties and worries from you and moves you to tears without them saying a word. Here are just a few more names of true heroes. St. Luke of Crimea, the surgeon, a bishop and surgeon who ended up often healing people through prayer rather than surgery towards the end of his life. The Soviet authorities wanted to bury him secretly because he was so beloved by the people of the Ukraine. When he died, nearly the whole city of Odessa came out in direct disobedience to the Soviets. He was buried in honor. The whole city got shut down because of the number of people in the streets, to the great consternation of the evil Soviets. Saint Seraphim of Viritsa, Viritsa, a millionaire who ended up in the Soviet gulags. After his wife died and after many years of imprisonment, he became a monk and a priest. He could read people's minds and worked many miracles while still alive. Saint Matrona of Moscow, a blind peasant who suffered horribly under communism, became a spirit being eldress. Her gift of grace was something special, and even the height of communist persecution against Christians, thousands of people in Moscow would meet with this poor blind peasant for spiritual edification and guidance and miracles. Saint Gabriel of Georgia, who had the guts to burn Stalin's portrait during a communist rally. Miracles upon miracles. A more recent one is F.R. John Krestiankin, Krestiankin, 2008. A clairvoyant and miracle-working elder. Here's some similar holy men who worked out their salvation in Romania. Father George Calciu, Calciu. Father Justin Parvu. Father Arseny Papaciok, Papachiok. Father Arseny Boca, Arsenie is that first name I'm hoping I'm pronouncing right. Father Sofian Buglu. Boogie. Oh my God, I suck at pronouncing a lot of words, you guys. Apologize, but that last name is Bughiu. Father Cleopa. There are thousands of these people, and that is a gross understatement. So, I think you're right, Steve. God won't stop this huge trial to come on us, but Jesus Christ will save every soul that seeks him in humility, perseverance, and discernment. Christ came to save us, not to judge us. He loves all mankind and always will. He even loves Fossey and Schaub and wants them to turn and be saved. I'm sure he hates what they're doing, but he still loves them. Don't get me wrong, it's not wrong to try to stop these evil people. Actually, we really should be trying to stop them. But the problem isn't whether God loves us. The problem is, do we love Christ? Hell is in the fiery, purifying, and healing love of Christ that is rejected and not accepted. Christ never withdraws his love, and evil people can't stand that. That peaceful, loving, fiery zeal to them becomes torture because they won't let go of the evil they cling to. He gave us the gift of freedom, and he won't take it away from us. Now, sorry about the rant, but I did my time. I've listened to many. I rant myself here on this channel. Yes, you have. So I feel justified. Sorry, good people, to make this so long, but I do have 2 Sabbath stories too. No apologies needed, my man. Let her rip. The first comes from my old man, God rest his soul. My father used to work as a ranch hand out west in the summers to help him earn his college tuition. This would have been in the 50s, before Sabbath was part and parcel of American pop culture. He worked with an old lumberjack who piled his trade in his younger years in California. This lumberjack claimed that there was a small town in California where everyone had been aware of the following event. Lumberjacks were there with their equipment in a little valley doing their business, and up on the ridges they had left several 50-gallon drum barrels of fuel, water, and oil for their machines. While they were working, these beings picked up and threw the barrels down into the valley. Not rolled, but threw them down. The entire crew, obviously mainly men, old school types, fled, leaving all the equipment. No one was hurt, but they were so terrified that there was no way the owner of the company could get them or anyone else to go back and get the equipment. The local lore was that the equipment had remained there to this day, and that the whole little town nearby knew the event. Now I know there was a lot of he said, she said in this account, but I believe my father. I know he wouldn't lie, and generally speaking, he was a good judge of character. Also, he heard this story before this topic was widely known or discussed. I hope maybe someone else can confirm and give more concrete details about that event. The next story is very recent and much closer to home, Massachusetts. My oldest boy, Orthodox priests are usually married and have kids, which by the way is as it was from the very beginning, went to a friend's house, and there were a bunch of teenage boys running around in the woods and yelling and stuff that normal teenage boys do. It was quite a crowd. My son wanted to stay overnight, but we had him come back because it's important for us that he go to church on Sundays, and it was a Saturday night. Well, the fun was just getting started, and they goofed off late in the evening making a racket. Early in the morning, about 6 a.m., a bunch of them went on a ride together. Some with BMX bicycles, others with little dirt bikes. They went down this road that has been closed off because a permanent swamp has overtaken it in a small section. This would have been April of 2022. As they turned a corner, one of them said, "Hey, who's that?" And they all turned and saw some guy out in the middle of the swamp hunched over. The boys all said hi and waved. This guy squatted down a little. There was no response. They continued on their way, but they all thought it was really strange and discussed it for some time. They didn't get that overwhelming dread, but they all thought it was really creepy. They even took a picture, which I'm not bothering to send because it's the typical fuzzy, not going to prove anything picture. Excuse me. What I can say more is that I noticed the kind of swamp reeds that were in the photograph and have been keeping an eye on them all year. They're usually between 6 to 8 feet tall. In the picture, the reeds come up to this guy's shoulders. Now, Massachusetts is not the friendliest state in the Union, but in this little town where I live, everyone at least responds to a hello or a wave of the hand. I've never seen anyone ignore a genuine good morning or greeting. The young kids were good kids and not intimidating or hooligan types that might scare someone. It is also very odd to find someone with no fishing pole standing in the middle of a swamp at 6 a.m. in April. It's kind of chilly. I've been here 6 years to take plenty of walks. I've never seen anyone standing in a swamp. I've never heard of swamp standing as a hobby. The picture shows no belt, no cuffs, no seams, no face, just a big brown fuzzy blob. So who knows? After listening here for a while, I'm sure they are in Massachusetts and a lot closer than most people think. Thanks for all you do and this community is doing. I really get a kick out of the info and people's beliefs and ideas. It's a great thing you got going on. I'm looking forward to the ride. You're in my prayers. May our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ grant everyone listening hope, peace, and joy, and a zeal for the spiritual battle that is awaiting us. It's not wrong to fight, but hate the sin, not the sinner. Feel free to read my name. The time for fear is over. I love hearing that sentence. Those words, I could read those a million times in a row. The time for fear is over. The only fear that is good is fear of the Lord. But even then, perfect love drives out fear. In Christ, FRDR John Downey. Sir, I absolutely appreciate the time that you took to speak to everyone here, which is literally hundreds of thousands, right? A lot of hundreds of thousands in this one particular video. Probably got, 50,000 plus anyway. But it's a mouthful. And to all you people out there, listen, take from it what you will or leave it, right? But listen, there's some valid points made there, I'll tell you what. It's funny, John, when you mentioned the people clinging to the evil and not being able to stand the kindness, my instant, just a picture of a scene came to mind was the Canadians protesting their freedom in Ottawa last winter. And the evil being who's in control of our country currently didn't even go and speak to them. How amazing is that? And imagine what kind of grief that would have settled down. But anyways, that person clinging, like you said, clinging to that evil, didn't go address the people who were dancing in the streets, helping each other, helping people across sidewalks, singing songs, playing hockey, doing nothing but good, and sharing displays of happiness. And that evil being who's clinging to the evil, like you said, did not speak to them, spoke down about them, tried to label them as evil, and then he ultimately, I believe, flew in evil UN troops from another country, I'm pretty sure it was Germany, and they went in and beat the living shit out of those good people in the streets. It's all on video. It's disgusting. But that's the scene that came to my mind when you said that the evil prefer to cling, those individuals cling to the evil and are terrified of the kind and the good being displayed, right? That fit like a glove. And much more there to listen to and ponder and take in and think about for certain. Now the confession part, I never really understood that part of people sharing their intimate secrets to a stranger. I don't know much about that myself. At first I used to always think, who the hell, what? Wait a minute. But obviously there's a lot I need to learn yet, and I'm learning every single day, and I'm learning from people like you and more. So please send more. If you have more that'll help the people, John, please send it. And I'm sure somebody's heard about the barrels. We've heard, instantly came to my mind was the Patterson film, The Road Crew. Where was that again? I can't remember where I was. And they had, the equipment was being tampered with and the fuel was getting chucked off the bank, etc. But I don't believe they left the equipment. I think something sinister went on during that time, but I don't think that's the same scene as the one you're mentioning. Bluff Creek, I don't think it's the same place as Bluff Creek. We'll see if somebody has something to say. I'm sure they're going to say it in the comment section below, or they're going to email me. All right, this next one's titled, Asking a Favor of a Busy Man. Excuse me. Steve, I've been a fan for many years now, but this idea just now entered my mind. To set up my request, I need to say I'm a beginner in knife making. Over the past 12 years, I've made or modified 36 knives. Never sold one, always gave them to friends. Now, my little supply of elk antlers is gone / used up every scrap. All I really need is one good size, free from mouse bitings. Elk is my favorite material. The white is brilliant and the dark is black almost. I love the contrast. Can you help me find a half a rack? I live on Social Security, so my budget is thin, but I'm willing to pay for it and / or shipping. I don't expect something for nothing. That's not my way. Don't waste much time on this. In the course of things, my request isn't important. I now understand a holy shit moment. Bracket, I now understand a holy shit moment. LOL bracket. Ron M. Mount Vernon, Washington. Member of the round table. You're a member? I want to hear about that, man. I'd chuck you some antlers in a second myself, but I can't. I believe it's illegal to ship wildlife parts across the border, as far as I know. But there is probably tens of thousands of people from Washington State right now listening to this. So come on, you guys, you fellow hunters, if you guys got, I'm sure you got a shed antler sitting there somewhere, and you live near this man, drop a note in the comment section below and hook them up with some antlers. All right? That'd be really good. And I'm sure somebody's going to do it. So make sure you watch the comment section below in this video. All right? I would do it in a second, but I think I would probably get a spanking from it, from Fish and Wildlife, and they'd stormtroop the man cave because I shipped animal parts. I'm guessing. But I know there's going to be someone in Washington State that's going to help you out. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. What do we got here? Here's another one. Steve, you can share my name. Thank you for all the many shares. As I've listened to the stories, my memory has been jogged on a few more experiences that I have had. My first is when I was 5, in my 30s. One saved my life as I fell face first down a ravine. I felt a huge hand push my butt up so I could grab and scurry. I felt a hand on my backside, but never that big. The fingers were mid-back. I leaned over the ridge and thanked you for saving me. I'm writing about my 2 most recent 4th of July, Belding, Michigan. I was camping out with my son and his friends. The friends owned 100 acres of beautiful land. We were doing boatloads of fireworks and sitting around the campfire. I kept hearing activity in the bushes next to me, but couldn't see anything. Feeling uneasy, I went in for the night. We were in a small travel trailer, my grandson, his girlfriend, and myself. Due to my grandson being 6'6", he got the big bed, and I was stuck on the drop down. At about 3 a.m., the girlfriend and I were awakened by the sounds of small rocks bouncing off the trailer. Then there was this big slap on the wall next to where I was laying down. I jumped to the far edge of the bed. Then we heard a guttural grunt of a big one and 2 little voices gibbering. It sure sounded like they got caught and trying to explain themselves. Then the big one spoke. It sounded like Dad was telling him to go to bed. It was amazing to hear, then nothing more. The next morning, the girlfriend and I went to investigating. We found where they had been huddled up in several bushes. And yes, right next to us the night before by the fire pit. My next story happened last month. I was at my daughter's apartment. I was cleaning up stray branches from the area. She parks her car when I discovered these structures in the heart of the city, a main street, 10 feet where my daughter parks to walk down the long driveway. Yes, I wanted to move because there's something in there. Tammy Clark, Michigan. Thanks, Tammy. Okay, I'll try to share that on here, okay, guys? There. Oh, it's not gonna frickin' focus on it, is it? Damn it. All right, well, hopefully I remember to stick that in the video. Come on, focus. I'm pretty sure it's on autofocus. And there you go, the slop in the wall. Unfortunately, I've experienced it by myself in a very small cabin in the middle of the night. And it wasn't fun at all. It wasn't fun. Okay, what do we got? Appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sending, and you left your name. You're a free human being. A free, brave human being. All right, this one is titled Red Now. An English Sasquatch. Hi Steve, this is my story of the sighting I had. It was July 2017. I started taking our dog to local park. This is a recent occurrence due to my husband having passed away from motor neuron disease in June the same year, and our dog used to go to work with him. So while walking to the park, I would hear Bigfoot. Not in a creepy way, just like someone saying it while stood next to me. This seemed to happen daily in the same place just before crossing the road to the park. At first I put it down to stress, but looked on the internet and found a few channels, even some in the UK. Then in September of the same year, it was around 4 p.m. whilst walking on the park along a path that led back towards home. My dog stopped and was sniffing a patch of grass. I looked in the opposite direction to check for other dogs, as a grumpy 17-year-old dog didn't appreciate lively young whippersnappers running up to him. It was then I saw this tall, but not giant, being stood next to a sweet chestnut tree. A sweet chestnut tree. He looked about 7 feet and was muscular. I could see from head to ankles as he was stood in the grass. The color of the hair was like typical Highland cow, red/brown. He was facing away from me, so I could see his right side and back. After a few seconds of staring, I looked at my dog to see what his reaction was, still sniffing the same bit of grass. I turned back to where the Sasquatch was stood, and there was no sign. There were only 2 sweet chestnut trees there, both about 8 inches in diameter. There was a hedge 200 yards away, and I know now that's possibly where he went. I didn't feel frightened, though I did avoid the area for a long time. I still will not go to the park after dusk. Hope sharing my experience helps. Laurette. An English Sasquatch, though, that was in the UK. Another one, and you're not alone with seeing them there at all. We've had plenty of emails come from the UK. And I don't blame you for a bit of being nervous about going back there. There's places I don't go. Still to this day, there's places I don't go just because I don't need it. I don't need the attention. Some places I used to go, there's no shortage of attention in those places. All right, I'm gonna read this one more and I'm gonna get my butt in gear, you guys. This is titled Alberta Sasquatch Perhaps, Nordegg and Rocky Mountain House, River Gully. Just from you saying where, 100% guaranteed. Steve, longtime watcher / fan of your channels, etc. I'll get right to the point. Number 1 case, Lessard Lake region, northwest of Edmonton, September 2020, in an area one would never expect any Sasquatch / odd shit to happen because it is too close to the hustle and bustle BS of the world. Tree knocking and the screaming sounds, not elk, not coyotes, not drunken yahoos. I grew up in the woods and I know what the F. This freaked us all out. The dogs were nervous and would not go near the tree lines. These dogs always ran and chased squirrels and whatever else into the woods at all hours. Whatever was going on equals F this for them. The dogs stuck to our camping area, acting skittish and sucky. Odd for 2 shepherds, a Rottie and a super mouthy Yorkie. Number 2 case, west of Nordegg, area 2021, all June and August. The screams, unexplained, broken trees and noises, the unexplained, why is the hair standing up on the back of our necks? Why are our senses on high alert, etc.? Being big tough oil field guys, this can't be. It was not elk, it was not wolves, not moonshiners, lol. It was blood curdling. Number 3 case, on the riverbank, Crown Land area, between the bridges in Rocky Mountain House, Alberta, along the North Saskatchewan River. I've hunted along the Saskatchewan River. September 2021, same as case number 2, but with big rocks tossed in the water and broken trees. We looked thinking it was wing Fs being pranky, but no. The fact that the dogs were so freaked out, once again, kind of made us think otherwise. Who knows? These dogs are hyper. They chase cement trucks, paper boys, butterflies, and squirrels, everything. What and why would make them all sulky and terrified? Skeet shooting, thunder, they are good. One of life's mysteries? Endo email. One of life's mysteries. Not really, not now. And you already know what it is just because you emailed here, right? You know what it was. And there's so many sightings around there. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that just reminded me of something. I saw a video a little while back. There's a guy in Alberta, and he videotaped, I think it was a giant. I'd have to go out of my way to try to find this video somewhere. Again, because I don't, videos and pictures just for me, you guys. And I don't try to push this on anyways, just for me. Videos and pictures just don't do shit for me at the stage I'm at and what I'm focused on and what I'm concerned about in this planet. And it doesn't mean to be, I'm not putting shame on anyone who is interested in photographs and video at all. It's just me. So that note being said, when I see a video, I see it, it's gone. And I don't mark it, I don't save it, I don't even remember where it came from. But I heard that this guy, he seemed like he's probably a younger guy in his 30s, videotaped, it was a large giant. The video is something else, especially if it's legit. And he videotaped this giant and is on a mountain, snow, long ways off, and apparently word has it the guy's dead, or disappeared, dead, or just dead. One or the other, or the both. And if anybody knows of this story that I'm relaying, email me about it or send me a link to the complete detailed story, all right? Because I want to know. I want to know if that's true, and if it is true, I want to know who harmed this guy. And I want to try to find out who harmed him and make them internet celebrities for what they did, who they are, and why they did it, if it's legit, all right? And all you sleuths, I'm sure, are cutting loose right now to find out. But anyways, Nordegg, yeah, like I said before, I mentioned before, RCMP officers in Jasper all noted that there is just non-stop sightings to west of Jasper at the BC-Alberta border, Banff, everywhere. Anyway, I gotta go on. My brain's going off this direction, so I gotta get going. I gotta get my stuff done. I gotta start packing, getting organized. But I still have to go. I ordered a bunch of more trail cameras to bring with me, but they're not gonna be here in time. So I'm gonna have to get up 5 in the morning tomorrow, the next day, and then a friend of mine's probably gonna come. We're gonna head out west to those mountains, remote BC, to get some cameras I left for those huge Roosevelt elk bulls, and maybe I'll get some video landed up there and share it with you guys when I come back. And I will be sharing people's voices the whole time I'm away. And there you go. There's more voices heard, and more people need to be heard. And if you are finally feeling knee-jerked to share, you can email it to sharemystory@howtohunt.com. All right? And the backup channel for when the evil bastards spank me here again, backup channel is the Roundtable of Knowledge by HTH. There you go. I'm going to get these read right now, and I'll be back shortly.
the one we called up, is it?
Man, that'd take a while. And this is how you come down.